I'm seeing a group of nerds watching hundreds of movies despite obnoxious hours, trying to get caught up in time for a podcast.
That's good, Cole. Explore that. Let's talk about your power. It's almost like you have a fifth sense. Wait. Yes.
Well,
no.
I don't have smell, so that counts.
Yes, so there we go. It evens out.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, hi, everybody. As you could probably imagine, this is not the Spill Super Bowl wrap-up show. It is, in fact, remote viewing, and we are on the air.
We are on the air. This is our fourth show?
I have lost count at this point.
19th.
Wow. I knew that was a crazy weekend, but I didn't know it was that crazy.
Well, given the amount of movies that we have thus far sat through to talk about on the show, it does kind of feel like this has to be like our 20th or 21st episode.
Well, the funny thing is, like, all right, so much like in like something like the movie Primer or something like that, I added up all the amount and the running times of the films and did a little basic math, and it turns out that there's no way we could have seen all the films that we have actually seen since now in the last one. It's like, it's mathematically impossible.
Wow. So
Yeah.
are you accusing us of lying on the air?
No. What I'm saying is that we entered some sort of pocket universe, obviously, to be able to review all the movies that we have for you this week.
We ripped the space-time continuum a new one, and we plunged right in. That's how it works.
We did. And speaking of plunging right in,
Here we go. That was a great segue. I really appreciate that. We're going to get started this week with a little movie that I think might have made some money. It was a film called Paranormal Activity 3, which is the third most paranormal of the activities.
so you saying you liked it the least of the three?
What I'm saying is that it's the paranormalist.
The Paranormalist?
Yes.
Okay.
Look, I thought the Giants played great.
No, we're done with that shtick now.
Damn it.
I should send you show notes.
The Giants.
No, wait, I should make show notes.
You know what? Someone said that in the game, the only thing that would have made sense for Marvel to do if they really wanted to advertise the Avengers was have someone go out in a Captain America outfit at one point to play with the Patriots. I think that would have been.
Well, I fully expected Bane to pull the earthquake move at some point, and
Hey.
I'm really disappointed that never
Hey,
happened.
that's Lucas Oil Stadium you're talking about.
I'm just
no
saying.
earthquake generators in the stadium, sir. That is the house that Manning built. Wait, no, this is not the Super Bowl wrap-up. God damn it, Luke.
You're
right,
not going to
so-
find me on that podcast.
Paranormal Activity 3, however, is a film made by the not Minds, I guess, though that seems like giving them a lot of credit, behind the film Catfish, which
Is a film, I guess.
was
See,
kind
I'm
of
glad,
a movie.
I'm glad to hear that you guys didn't like Catfish either, because
I don't care for
some people
Catfish.
really do, and it's not one of those things like, oh, some audiences like it. No, in critics it's split. People either really really love it, or they're like, what the fuck was that? And I fall under the what the fuck was that category.
I don't think there's anything there to qualify it as a film. It really
Catfish
just...
it bothers me. It bothers me on a moral level. Like it feels like they're taking advantage of this woman who's clearly not well, and
Clearly.
That's exactly what I felt about it. Yeah.
and it just, I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way. And frankly, the biggest question of both Catfish and Paranormal Activity 3 is, why does that man have a tramp stamp? So until we get an answer to that.
As much as I didn't like Catfish, I gotta admit, Paranormal Activity 3 was by far my favorite of the three films. I thought, well, I have no problem with found footage movies. I really don't. I mean, some people use it as a cheap gimmick where it's nothing but that and they have nothing creative to say, right? And I go, all right, well, you're just another shitty fucking filmmaker who's trying to make a horror movie for cheap. There's lots of them out there not using found footage as well. I can't condemn the technique in and of itself. And I thought the first Paranormal Activity, for what it was all right. I enjoyed it. It was like, okay, it's nothing I could ever go back and watch again because nothing happens through 80% of it. But for people like me who grew up reading, like, tales of the paranormal from ghost hunters and stuff. And in the days before there were ghost hunter shows, I was like, okay, I can kind of, this is the stuff I used to believe when I was 13 years old. The second one was just a retread of the first. And I went, okay, you pushed it too far. But the third one actually said, you know what, maybe we should actually make stuff happen in this movie, like earlier than the last 10 minutes of it. And to that degree is partially why I think this is the best of the three. I mean, it's a prequel, mind you.
Right. Well, and it's weird because I'm the exact flip side of that coin. I really liked the first one a lot. I thought it was I thought it was innovative and it was trying something a little bit different, not horribly, like, it wasn't a trailblazing movie, but it is the movie that convinced a lot of people that there was still a lot of money to be found in this found footage situation.
Well, they made it for $10, so
They really like. I looked at the budget versus how much it actually made, and it's like it's like a producer's wet dream.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's not even real. And then the second one, I actually thought the second one did everything that a sequel is supposed to do, which is that it took the core concept of what the first one, what made the first one good, and expounded upon it. It widened the universe a little bit. It kept its roots very much in place. I really liked where they went with it. And then the third one, to me, like, I agree with what you're saying about there were more things happening, and I like the things that were happening. I hate the ending.
And we've had this argument before.
Yes.
All right, so your problem with the ending is that it's just one of those, like, okay, build, and cut off at the height of the tension.
Right.
And my argument is every single found footage film pretty much does that.
Well,
they
and
all do that.
I totally understand why people think I'm crazy for making this argument, but I think the difference in Paranormal Activity 3 that bothers me is the fact that it introduces new elements right before the end.
But that's exactly what I think is so great about it.
But that to me
That's
is
just
why
like
it
in
feels.
Wreck.
But that's why it feels different to me than something like the first Paranormal Activity, where it's like, yes, it cuts off abruptly, but everything that happens at that ending is stuff that's based on. I mean, it's basically the same as everything that's happened before. It's wrapping it up in a very kind of punch in the gut, bloody, like severing of the artery type of way. Whereas in Paranormal 3, it's like it introduces this really much more interesting avenue and then gives up on it.
No, I don't agree at all. I think that's all right. So, did you hate the end of Wreck? It does the exact same thing.
But I feel like, but what if Wreck hadn't... I don't want to spoil Wreck.
I know,
Don't spoil it.
but it does the exact same thing. It adds a major new way of looking at everything that's happened. Like that, you have to turn around everything you've seen and put it in a whole new context at the end of Wreck in the last minute of the film.
Well, here's what I will say. The great thing about that is that Rec 2 takes that idea and runs with it.
I agree.
So I think what will really tell
Is
what happens in
next.
Paranormal 4, which
Yeah.
we're obviously going to get.
There's no way
Paranormal Activity.
It's from the same director, so they have the opportunity. I think if they take, because I'm kind of in the middle of you two. I agree with Brian to a certain degree. I still enjoyed the film. It didn't take away from my enjoyment of the film, but I want to see more of that world too. I think what they introduced is really interesting, and I really hope that they take Paranormal 4 as the opportunity to explore that more, which in and of itself will be weird because then you'll have a sequel to a prequel of a sequel to an original film.
I don't know what the fuck they've already.
But
announced.
it doesn't really matter because you already know what you need to know. Like Paranormal Activity 4 on the marquee is already a guaranteed $100 million.
Easily.
Yeah.
So
I mean, even if it only made $10 million, it would still be totally a profitable film.
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
they
actually. It's funny. People were talking when this film came out, like, how did they spend $5 million to make Paranormal Activity 3? And the answer was they paid everybody what they should have paid them. So, like, the DP actually got paid what he should have gotten paid.
And there are some
DP's name, by the way, is Tripod.
Yeah.
there are a lot
Oscillating
more.
fan.
I know, oscillating fan. Which, by the
that
way,
is a great gimmick.
that's the
great gimmick.
That's
and
like,
it adds so much tension to that
and
film.
it pays off like in a big way twice in the film.
Yeah.
Where you're like, okay, that was fucking creepy as hell.
Definitely.
The second time, especially, that was one of the first times in a while I actually jumped in a movie theater.
It was funny. We saw it at Fantastic Fest, and the person sitting next to me, one of my buddies, like reacted, and I didn't see it at first. Like when it pans back, and I didn't see it at first, and then I kind of looked at him like, and then he just looked at the screen again, and I saw it, and it was like some kind of delayed reaction.
Yeah.
But suddenly I was like, oh my god!
Well, it was the time in particular I'm thinking of was sort of like a new take on the poltergeist chair thing.
Yeah.
The chairs on the table, which to me was the single creepiest scene in horror movie history for me. Like the one that just sent a rocket, chill going up my spine. Just thinking about it. I'm like, nah! And it was like a more extreme version of that. So, I don't know.
And I like that about it. And my other big complaint with the movie is that there is a certain amount of suspension of disbelief inherent in found footage, which is it's the thing every armchair critic says, which is, why wouldn't they just put down the camera? Why would you keep filming? And I felt like in the first two movies they got around it to a certain extent. In this one, at the end, Like,
you're not wrong. You're not
he's
wrong.
running around with the camera still in hand
Then
as
why
shit
are
is
you-
hitting the fan.
Why are you still filming?
And keep in mind, this is a prequel, which means it takes place in the late 80s, which means the camera is the size of a fucking Buick.
No. You're not wrong. And even a lot of the best films, like even Chronicle has moments you're like, which is, I think, he's right there with Rec and Cloverfield, the very best.
I agree.
Of the found footage movies. Even that's got moments you're like, all right, you're just gonna have to suspend your disbelief a little bit for a minute with the camera stuff here. But that being said, if you're enjoying it anyway and it's not really blatant and constant, I say I can let it go. And for this, I was willing to. So
Well-
I guess we're gonna. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I'm sorry. I thought you were done. No, I was gonna take it off onto a little bit of a tangent. Just something that I think we were all at least discussing when the film first came out, and very curious as to what was going to happen with the DVD and Blu-ray release, because as I recall, they basically cut trailers for this off of a film that they didn't release.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's so much in that.
All of the shots from the trailer
Aren't
are
there.
not in the film,
And I will tell you
and are
this-
not found on the Blu-ray.
I
Unfortunately,
will tell you this right now. I was really grateful for that.
I think it's a really interesting idea. I think it's two things. It's a really dangerous game to play because you risk pissing people off
Who are looking
by
for a specific scene.
by representing a film that you haven't shown them. But at the same time, it's a really interesting way to not spoil any of your scares.
Yeah. Well, because all the trailers it was like a repositioned versions of scenes in the film. Like it was like just different enough that like you didn't know what was going to happen when the movie actually played. And sure enough, it changed enough so that the scares you saw in the trailer were not the same scares in the film, but it accurately represented what the film was going to present at the same time. And I kind of like that. That's like a new idea in, dealing with that whole fucking I hate trailers, they spoil things,
And I like it too. I heard that they actually shot almost a completely separate film worth of footage on this, and
I
I
think
really
they put that on the Blu-ray.
I can't imagine we won't get a double dip because the Blu-ray we have is really, really bare bones.
Yeah.
Especially for like 45 retail.
Especially for a movie that made this, and I know this is a really petty argument, for a movie that made this much fucking money, you can't spend a little bit of money on the Blu-ray. Like,
Oh, that's the thing. Not only can they not spend a little money, but they're charging more than most other new release Blu-rays.
That's bullshit.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. It would not surprise me to see a Paranormal 3 or even a huge box set
Well,
at some point.
A box
with-
set is definitely gonna happen.
It has to, whether it happens before and after Paranormal 4 or just
Like I said,
after,
It's so cheap to film this stuff on the whole, and even with these actors who are all unknowns except for Paranormal Activity films.
they kind of have to be unknown.
Yeah, I know
They
exactly.
just
Or it doesn't
keep
work.
Throwing,
But they could
what's her face?
they
Katie
could film,
Feathers.
Yeah, Katie Feathers.
They could end up filming a whole hour and a half worth of stuff that's exclusive for the fucking box set. That's a new movie that ties them all together
Totally.
and make God knows how much.
I'm not
a
convinced.
gazillion dollars. They could make almost a gazillion dollars.
I'm not convinced they're not filming us recording this right now, and then they're gonna kill us all, and then put that out as Paranormal Activity 4, because that would be the next logical step.
No, the cat would be freaking out if there were ghosts.
Oh, this is a good point.
Yeah.
This is a good point.
All right, so let's move on to the
So
next.
that was Paranormal
title.
Activity 3.
Thank you.
We're gonna try and get better about this, saying, all right, this is what we're talking about. This is what we just got done talking
That's
about.
Luke's job
All
Yay!
right.
to catch us in our own game.
Good,
That
because I
and
will
to
never
get
fucking
drunk.
remember.
All right, so moving on to the next title. Now this is one that was weird because there were trailers for this playing a lot in theaters.
Yeah, I remember.
This movie Dirty Girl. And I was like, okay, I don't know much about this except I recognize Juno Temple, who plays the lead role, Mila Jovovich, William H. Macy, Mary Steenburgen, Dwight Yoakam. I mean, it's got a decent
A
enough
really
cast.
good cast. I thought.
Oh, Tim McGraw is in it.
Yeah, briefly, he's in it.
We were making a joke about, like, I was like, well, I know that's Dwight Yoakam, and I feel like I've seen, and I was trying to explain to Luke where he'd seen him in a movie before, and first thing I said was Friday Night Lights. Oh wait, no, that was that other country bumpkin guy.
Well, in here, Juno Temple plays Danielle, who's a, I hate to use the term slutty, I really do, but she defines the term herself, really.
Yeah.
She's a very promiscuous high school kid who will sleep with any guy who will have her, and consequently, a lot of the guys in the school just are, treat her like the way that she acts.
Yeah.
She's
She's the kind of girl that acts like her knees hate each other.
Yeah, exactly. They're always so far apart. She's fighting with her mom, who's played by Mila Jovovich, who's about to marry William H. Macy, who's a Mormon, and she just figures out, with the help of her friend Clark, a very gay fat kid who. I guess they don't have each one doesn't have any other friends, so they end up gravitating towards each
Well,
other.
and it's funny,
And-
they work into the plot where, I mean, she is quote-unquote popular because of her sexual proclivities, but she gets, it distracts her so much from school that they put her in the, quote, special class.
Right.
And she becomes a pariah because of it. So she loses all of her friends that she'd earned through these nefarious means because suddenly she's looked at as one of the slow kids.
Well, yeah, you can't fuck the tard.
Exactly. Yeah,
So
because
I'm talking high school speak, okay? Don't
don't
get excited out there in Spill Land.
Don't write letters because well, this is an online show. We don't accept snail
Yeah,
mail.
you don't even have my address. What are you
Idiot.
doing? Just send to the post office. Please deliver to Cyrus at the North Pole.
Well, the funny thing is that works here in Austin.
Yeah,
so.
it does actually.
Yeah.
This is in weird sort of way.
Willie Nelson's been getting Santa Claus letters for decades.
This is
Well,
the-
actually, I do kind of want to talk about that a little because part of what I liked about this film is that she's not just the dumb slut though. Like
no, she's not.
It's
She's
very
just
much
trouble.
a conscious decision where and this is going to sound weird, and I hate to use this term, but it's kind of a female empowerment thing, and I hate to use that term just because everybody appropriates that to mean a lot of different things. What I mean is that whereas normally, especially in just a generic indie comedy, the slutty girl would just be a dumb slutty girl.
You're right.
This is a really intelligent girl who's making a very conscious decision that she likes sex and she wants to have a lot of sex. And who gives a shit?
I would argue that would have been nice if they had let that play out, and I never thought they did. I thought that you have to insinuate that into the film yourself, because they don't really explore it, but to a certain degree that part of her. It's clear that she's smart, but that whole topic is just kind of left to fall by the wayside in the film. I thought on the whole. I mean, it becomes. So
I
much...
I think it's abandoned in favor of other plot lines, but
Well-
I thought they spelled it out enough, at least enough for me to grab onto and say, you know what, I recognize that this is doing something different and I like it.
Here's the thing: they go out on a road trip across country, the two kids, to find her real father, who she's just figured out that he lives on the other side of the country. Meanwhile, both their mothers are flying across country to try and chase them down. But the whole road trip turns into really more of a story about the gay kid coming out, which could have been more entertaining than I thought it was, or at least more feel real. I don't know. It just I never bought into it. I never really bought into his portrayal of that character. I don't know. It just didn't work for me. Whereas every time I went back to her, I was like, okay, she actually is interesting. She does seem like she has layers, that she's more interesting. And he was just kind of a caricature, I thought.
Wow, I thought he was incredibly real. Like I was very much on board with that actor's performance. I thought
It was like looking into a mirror, Brian.
yeah, it may have been yes. Thank you, Rubio. Yeah.
Hey.
He no, just something about him. Like I think it was a lot of the vulnerability. Like I mean, he really did play vulnerable very well, and I think part of what aided his performance is the fact that this is set in the 80s, when not that being
Late 70s, 78.
Really? Oh, okay. I thought I could have sworn it said that it was in the 80s. But yeah, basically, what aided that for me is like not that it's easy to be gay now, but I mean like if you take away a couple of decades and go back, like it and especially in high school, and especially with your dad played by Dwight Yoakam, who's just a crazy ass redneck, like pretty much every facet of his sexuality he had to hide, and it felt like it really did feel to me like it was tearing him up. And I don't know, I pretty much bought every aspect of his performance, so I guess I kind of fall on the other side of the fence there.
Well, fair enough. I mean, it's not like I hated him, and I didn't hate the actor. I kind of felt like the problem was the script more than anything there. It got distracted by the other story and abandoned it for way too long. It just goes, okay, now we're done with that. Let's go back to the story about the titular character. I don't know. I thought
It is a little schizophrenic. I think it worked a lot for Brian and I, and it's definitely a strange film, but I really, really liked it. I think we were surprised how much we liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it more than I thought I was going to because it wasn't well reviewed, and I ended up. It was one of those like, well, I'll start watching this, and if I really don't like it, then I'll just stop. And there was no chance I wasn't going to finish it, and I did. I did enjoy it. I just, I see why it didn't make it to theaters. Is all I'm saying. I felt like it wasn't good enough to make it to theaters, but
and I'll disagree there because all the things hit really well for me. All the emotional notes hit and rang true, and I'll admit it, I kind of teared up at the end.
Cool.
I thought, and there's a couple other things. The soundtrack in this movie is fucking unreal.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
It's a really good soundtrack.
And actually, just really quick to say one more thing about like the standard gender role situation. I feel like that is subverted at every turn, and in fact, there is a fantastic like strip club contest thing where the car is obviously broken down because when do you have a road trip movie where the car doesn't break down? And they need money.
Seriously,
and
buy a better fucking car.
Yeah, it's a Cadillac for God's sake. Like, what happened? Did they forget to put gas?
And it's not like they went through a cactus patch or something. Like it just stops working.
I guess it is gas because they do go they do go to get gas. But anyway,
hadn't they already run out of money at that point? So
yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So they need money and they go to the strip club and there's the strip contest or whatever and so of course the girl gets up there and it's like, well, you're never gonna beat Jade and all this other stuff. And the great thing is that it turns out to be a gay bar and the guy has to be the stripper.
See,
and that never
Jade
happens.
is a dude.
As much as I agree with you that was a kind of a surprise, I also thought it played out as gimmicky, and I went, oh, okay, it just didn't have any resonance for me other than, okay, it was a set piece and a joke that was supposed to take that did in fact catch me unawares, but.
Cyrus and co-host are both metal robots with no love in their hearts, so
well,
what are you gonna do?
Is actually a metal robot.
I know, Cyrus.
Oh, okay. Nice. I will also say that Mia Jovovich has never looked prettier, I think, in a movie. She was just fucking adorable.
Oh, she was gorgeous.
She was really.
She had this like Dallas type haircut. She talked like this, and it was just like she was like little Susie Homemaker, and I'm like, Lilu?
I'm not used to seeing you with all your clothes on.
Alice? What's going on? I'm confused.
All right, well, that was Dirty Girl. Moving on. What do you want to talk about next? It's your turn.
Oh, okay. Well,
throw the balls in your court.
Keep throwing balls at me. I think we talked a little bit on our last show about a made-for HBO special about the Tuskegee Airmen.
Yes.
That I think we all agree was far better than Red Tails.
Yeah.
And there were a couple more released in this batch that one of which I would like to start with is also starring Lawrence Fishburne called Thurgood, which is basically a one-man show about Thurgood Marshall, the Supreme Court Justice, who obviously broke a lot of racial barriers and was involved in Plessy versus Ferguson and a lot of the Brown versus Board of Education, a lot of the landmark racial court cases in America. And what it is basically is Fishburne as Thurgood telling his life story. And I loved this particular show. And I thought it was just another win for HBO and Lawrence Fishburne.
Well, and this was the surprise of the week for me. It really was, because as good as Fishburne is, and as good as HBO films usually are, I was like, oh crap! I thought this was a biopic. It's a one-man show.
Yeah, the minute you hear it's a one-man show, you're like, oh,
because those things can be so tiresome sometimes.
Yeah. It sounds boring, and it's not really. It's hard to call it a film because it's not really a film.
No, it's filming.
It's a film stage play. Yeah.
But that being said, it's mesmerizing.
Absolutely.
Lawrence Fishburne is so great in this. It's one of the best roles he's ever played in his life. And wow, this guy, if you don't know much about Thurgood Marshall, well, god damn it, you should.
His story is fascinating.
Oh yeah, and like I said, Fishburne tells it in a way that is so engaging. I mean, it's like you just want to sit on the porch in front of your grandpa while he tells you stories about the old days, but he's funny and like surprises all through it. Wow, there's so many good things to say about this, but I don't even want to say, but I don't know how to describe it other than that. It reminds me of Hal Holbrook's famous Mark Twain portrayal. He used to do the same thing, one-man show, where it's Mark Twain talking about his life. And yeah, I can't recommend this one anymore. It's this may even be my pick of the week.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree with you. And the thing about it is that when you're dealing with a one-man show, and especially a one-man show that's about a historical person's life, you have two options. You get something like Thurgood that is kind of transcendent and amazing to watch, or you get somebody who's not very good and you feel like you're in old Pioneer Village listening to some fucking second-year drama student tell you about life in the olden days, and it just feels forced, and you want to get out of there as quickly as possible. But luckily for us, Fishburne is the kind of actor who can take on, and I'm sorry, like, having had admittedly very small experience with being an actor, I can't even imagine what kind of preparation you have to go through to do a one-man show.
Oh, yeah.
Because you are memorizing you're not memorizing your lines. You're memorizing basically an entire book and reciting it in a way that it can't feel like a recital. And I was just completely... And it's funny, as it goes along, they find these little ways to age him like subtly as it goes along without you even noticing really. And after a while you're like, oh wait, he looks older all of a sudden.
And just in his movements, the rate in which he responds to things as his story goes on, you go from him younger and he's much more spry. I mean, they're not changing his makeup, it's all the performance.
Yes.
And he's just that good.
He really, it's amazing how much he disappears into the role. And I'll say this, Brian was watching it in the other room, and I was in my office, and I had no idea what it was, didn't know what he would put in, and I came in like 20 minutes into it, and it was one of the earlier stories about Marshall working in a restaurant, and I believe a U.S. senator who kept calling him nigger, but was a really big tipper, and so, he would just keep kind of not liking it, but dealing with it because he liked $20 bills.
Yeah, huge tipper.
Yeah, that the senator kept dropping for him, and the climactic scene is when his father comes in to visit and hears the senator talking to his son and just calls him out on the carpet for it. I didn't know it wasn't Lawrence Fishburne. And that's not to say that it had to be Lawrence Fishburne, but no. I didn't know it wasn't Lawrence Fishburne's life.
Oh.
Because it just seemed like a story that could have happened to any young black man. And I mean, you can not that you can't recognize that it's Lawrence Fishburne on screen, but he just so disappears into it that it feels like his own story is coming out.
Yeah, you stop thinking very early into it like, wow, this is Lawrence Fishburne I'm watching, as he's one of the most recognizable actors in the world, and yet, wow, you're right, so lost inside this part. And I gotta say, I mean, this is just important as far as like understanding civil rights and what got them there. This guy is one of the primary, if not the primary guy responsible for overturning Jim Crow laws.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like we mentioned, the Plessy versus Ferguson and the Brown versus Board of Education, two of the cases that are still to this day taught as the moment when America kind of had to face the fact that we were racist in our policy. And we had to do something about it.
Yeah, that it was completely unconstitutional. So many things.
Yeah.
So the guy's spent his whole life, bit by bit, picking them apart, overturning these rules with the help of the Supreme Court, and eventually as a member of the Supreme Court.
And at great personal cost as well.
Oh, yeah, they talk about all the, he was almost lynched at one point. They drove him out to a tree where there was a rope, and luckily somebody else came along and they got cold feet. But I mean, this is a guy who every day put his life on the line, and what's funny is all of his stories are entertaining and they have jokes and you're going along with it, and almost every single one of them ends with such a punch in the gut. Like the story that Luke was telling, the best part of that story is that eventually it got to the point where that senator would drop the N-word and Thurgood would come running because he knew there was $20 tips, and his dad, who owned the restaurant, saw it and fired him on the spot.
Yeah.
It was like, you don't put up with that. You're not performing for them. You're not going to come when they call and let them walk all over you. And it was like just all of these little moments that just sound like funny stories, and then they have these endings that it's like, wow, like this guy's life is unbelievable.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned the funny, because this is really funny as well.
It is, absolutely. And that's what helps it be interesting is that it's not
preachy.
It's not nearly as dry or preachy as you would think it would be being historical. It is funny.
He has many anecdotes that are there just to be funny, and he has many that go back both ways, that are funny and serious. And sometimes it's just the fact that you fall so in love with the character in and of himself. I mean, he's a womanizer. He's kind of a drunk, but all self-admitted. Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
and he's really funny about it.
And I really think the home video format really helps this, because if you were, I can't remember where it was, the Kennedy Center, maybe?
It's in D.C. somewhere.
Howard University,
where he's doing the show. And I kept thinking about the people sitting there watching it in the audience, and I kept thinking, wow, that would be really amazing. But then I thought, what helps with any one-man show, eventually you'd start to recognize that you're seeing one thing over and over again. So in the home video format, they can actually edit it, approach it from different angles, they can sweep in and sweep out, and it breaks up the monotony a little. Not that this is monotonous to a large extent, but I mean, anytime you're dealing with one-man show, you run that risk of it starting to drag a little bit, and especially if you're in the audience, I could sense people squirming and whatever, but it so benefits from the home video format because they can do all these creative edits, and you're still watching the same thing, but it will approach it from different angles, and it really helps it out.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Well, that was Thurgood.
Thurgood.
And moving on to the third of the three HBO, I guess for Black History Month, really, releases that they put out is one of their more famous films is the Josephine Baker story. Now this is actually a biopic. It's not just a chick on stage for 2 hours.
This is much more of what you think of when you think of like a made-for-TV biopic.
Yeah, and it's from 1991, and it is a little dated. I wasn't blown away by the transfer to Blu-ray. I'll say that. I thought it looked a little fuzzy, but that was probably because I'm gonna guess that because of the date it came out, it was probably shot on like early high def video, like early video, like the way Star Trek Next Generation and stuff was. Why it's taking them forever to put that out on Blu-ray.
Yeah,
because it's a pain in the ass to upgrade it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know the specs. Maybe Luke does.
I don't know what they shot this on.
Well, it is about Josephine Baker, who was a black woman who got to be just ridiculously famous across the whole world, but especially in France in the late 1920s, where she was a kind of a go-go dancer, but an artistic one, and a comedian, and eventually an amazing singer. And her life was really complicated. I mean,
lots of very tragic things going on, and not just like in terms of death, but in terms of just these insane highs and lows.
Yeah.
Very manic.
Well,
not that she was manic, but her life was manic.
Well, a lot of her thing was like she was an American, and she wanted to come back to America, but she left in the first place because there was so much just rampant racism. I mean, when she was a little kid, she saw tons of guys getting murdered by white people for reasons I was never clear on.
It was like a mob would just come into her town, which was obviously a segregated town, and just start killing people.
Yeah. But so she left for partially at least that reason, as soon as she had a chance. Hey, I'm a showgirl and there's jobs in France. I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Right.
But when she tried to come back, she's hugely popular in France. She's touring Europe. Everyone loves her. Like, she's dating a rich white guy and like the whole world is at her feet. She comes to America and they're like, yeah.
You're still black.
You're still black. So
yeah, it's like, and it's funny because they acted like, oh my gosh, we're actually going to book Josephine Baker. We're so excited you get to the hotel. Like, oh, we're so glad to have you here. You're going to need to go through the kitchen to get to the service elevator to get to your room, and you can't eat in the restaurant. It was like, what?
Now, you take that and you add on to it that she was a member of the French resistance. I mean,
Yeah.
she actively fought in the war, helping people like Jews escape, and just like, oh my God, she's this amazing woman.
Yeah.
She went over to Africa to perform for the troops.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, what an incredible fucking lady to do all this stuff. And then she ended up, get away from their cat.
Damn cat.
And then she ended up adopting just a shit ton of kids.
I think it was 12 altogether.
Yeah, it was like of all different races and everything to show the whole world. And her point was, look, all these kids, they don't know. They weren't raised inside racism, so they don't give a shit what color each other is.
Yeah.
And
she had the original quota. Like, she had to have, like, one of every race. In fact, there's a scene in the movie where she's begging her husband to let her adopt, like, her 7th child. And she actually says, we have to have a Jewish one. And it was just, like, to me, I was kind of taken aback by that line. I was like, wait, what?
Well,
she's fighting Jolie for like the crown. Spielberg's already up there.
Well, she was way before Jolie.
No,
she
true,
started
true.
the United Colors of Benetton.
She had the original Benetton hat.
Exactly. And the thing about this movie is it is kind of dated. Some of the performances I thought were a little exaggerated, but Lynn Whitfield, who plays Josephine Baker, absolutely knocks it out of the park. I mean, she performs the role from her being basically a young, older teenager to being a very old lady. And wow, I mean, I was touched and moved by her performance alone. And it's one of those stories that you go, even though a lot of the elements around the side of it, like some of the technical aspects I thought were just okay, her story is so incredibly involving and moving, it's hard not to get drawn into it.
Yeah, it's funny. I agree about her performance. I thought she did a really, really great job. I really wish I had watched this before I watched Thurgood, mostly because they do things throughout the movie that, and granted, it may be based on factual, things that actually happened, so I can't really fault them for that. But there's so many moments in the movie where I don't really know how to feel about her.
Yeah.
Like, they kind of start off making her seem like this total trollop, like, who literally just, like, will jump into bed with any guy that shows interest in her. Like, at one point, she's literally, like, dating one guy, and she's in a pool, and she sees this handsome guy, and she's like, well, hello, and it's like, Okay, I guess that's
well,
fine.
if it had been Juno Temple, you'd be okay with it.
Well, no. Well, I don't know. Well, but Juno Temple's not supposed to be somebody worth doing a biopic on.
I know,
so.
I'm kidding. I'm poking fun.
And the other thing is, like, when it gets toward her actual civil rights activism, I don't feel like they didn't delve into it too much, or she really wasn't as involved as she gets. I don't really know what it was, but they paint the picture of somebody that literally was fighting for the rights of rich black people and only rich black people. Like her whole famous protest of the Stork Club because they wouldn't serve her, and she got all this flack because it was like, yeah, that's great, but most colored people in America can't eat there because they don't have the money to.
Yeah, but the film actually addressed that.
And they do address it, but they don't go any further into her struggles in this country for civil rights. And I'm like, if all we get to see is her fighting for the rights of rich black people, I don't feel like it gives us the whole story.
Well, I thought that what she was going, I thought it was clear in saying this has nothing to do with rich or poor. It has to do with the fact that even though I'm a rich black woman to these guys, I'm still just a black woman.
Sure.
I mean, it's at that point that I might get invited to all these places and hang out with these rich people, but there's still going to be these people who it's going to be, those people who are supposedly my friends will look the other way when someone decides not to serve me, because ultimately they still do just look at me as a black woman.
And I just want to say really quickly, I'm sorry, I realized I used the word colored, but it was only because I was quoting a line from the movie. Please do not send us angry letters. I don't use.
Oh, Brian's a huge racist.
Oh,
he
my
drops
God.
the M
Cyrus hates gay people. I'm a racist. What are you gonna do?
I don't know. Salisbury already said that he hated Josephine Baker and she was a huge bitch. So what do you want? I mean, like,
I don't think that's exactly what I said, but it's probably
pretty close.
It's
Put
how
that
I'm gonna
shit
get
on the
quoted.
poster.
All right, Grand Dragon.
Mr. and Mrs. America and all the ships at sea. Brian
That
is
was
a
the
racist.
Josephine Baker story, which we hate, and
Stop it. Stop that.
No, not we, just Brian.
God
right,
damn it.
Brian hates
Because he's a huge racist.
because he's a racist and he
I-
hates black.
I
Oh,
am
wait, he's
huge.
a Nazi, remember?
yes,
I-
yes, Nazi racist who
We
hates
forgot
the
that
blacks.
meme.
Oh, well, Josephine Baker, you wily bitch. You have made a fool of me again.
If you keep this up,
You and
Bill,
Rubio have a Klan meeting to get to.
Jesus
if
Christ.
we keep this up, the only job he's going to be able to get in media is as a small town weatherman. What's the weather going to be like today, Brian? Sig hail!
Nice. Nice. Or on any number of conservative radio shows, I think it'll be fine.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
You could run for office.
Hey!
All right, well, let's move on. I want to get
That was the Josephine Baker
That
story.
was thank you. I want to move on real quick to a title that is totally not worthy of your notice, but I did in fact watch 40 minutes of it before my brain seized up and forced me to fall
I think you're
into
brave for
unconsciousness.
watching that
Doesn't look
much.
good. I'm not gonna lie to you.
No, it's called Division 3, Football's Finest. And you know what gives this movie away of the quality it is? It's that Andy Dick is the main
Dick!
actor in this film. And he appears on the cover. Okay, Andy Dick holding a football with a step into a Slim Jim face on underneath a pair of cheerleaders' legs where it says "Get Some." Okay, first off, Andy Dick is
So many lies. So many lies on this
Andy
cover.
Dick has never been between a woman's legs.
Ever.
At least that's my guess, anyway. And two, I seriously doubt he would know what to do.
Unless
with
there
a
was a line of coke up there.
yeah, exactly. The idea is that there's this broken down college football team, and he's hired as coach because they can't get anybody else. And
That makes sense.
He was apparently terrible, but as the movie keeps insisting, but then why did they get him? Anyway, it turns into a series of really cheap drug and booby jokes that are not. Why am I even talking?
Wait.
I'm not sure why.
An Andy Dick movie with drug and booby jokes?
Yeah.
Are you sure you were watching every Comedy Central roast ever done?
Let me put it this way: the team is called the Pullum Bluecocks. Yeah, if that tells you anything.
Oh, people get paid to write movies like this.
Yeah.
So that was Division 3.
That was Division 3. I think that's enough said about that one. All I can
I
say
think there's
is,
more than enough said about that one.
in all seriousness, skip it. It's why would you even want to? I mean, I know some of you out there are like, no, it's going to be terrible. I want to see it. No, you don't.
No. If Cyrus says it's unwatchable, knowing Cyrus's taste and how it usually runs pretty even to my own terrible taste, if he says it's not worth watching, it's not worth watching.
All right, so let's move on. What do we got next up?
Next up, I'm actually there were a couple of really great Robin Williams movies that were released on Blu-ray.
There were.
And one of them, I have to admit, I hadn't seen before I was prepping for the show, which was Good Morning Vietnam.
Man, I can't. That's one of those ones I'm like, how can you not have seen Good Morning Vietnam?
It was a major, major blind spot on my part, and I'm really glad I rectified it because it is a phenomenal film.
Well, it's Barry Levinson, who has definitely had kind of a hit and miss career.
Very weirdly hit and miss.
Yeah, I know, because you'll do a film that's so great, and then followed up with just the worst piece of shit. You're like, dude, what are you doing?
But luckily, this is Men in Black, Barry Levinson.
That's Barry Sonnenfeld.
Damn it.
But Good Morning Vietnam is based on a true story. It stars Robin Williams as a disc jockey in Saigon during the Vietnam War who was enormously popular with the troops because he was actually daring to play rock and roll at a time that it was still considered to be pretty not acceptable.
And he was also cracking wise and saying things that you weren't typically allowed to say. Like the military had a very heavy censorship on what their DJs could say in terms of jokes, and there's actually a great scene where Bruno Kirby, who plays this like really sniveling little like mid-level officer, tells him that there's certain kinds of humor he can do, and one of them he says is slapstick, and Robin Williams is like, how do you do slapstick on the radio?
Yeah,
how do you do fall downs on the radio?
Well, you have sound effects. Boing.
It's just such a great scene where every turn Robin Williams is giving him shit, and I fucking love it.
And it's apparently a lot of the script in here was taken from the original things that he actually said, Adrian Cronauer, the real guy, but it all fits Williams' character perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
And he nails it. A lot of time Williams, when he's on, as it were, can be very cloying.
Because
like,
you can't turn him off.
Yeah, well, it's like that's what we watch your stand-up for. It doesn't need to be in all your movies.
Right.
Here, it mixes perfectly, and he knows exactly when to turn it off completely because there's a whole other side story going on with him and a Vietnamese girl who he's teaching English to, or he ends up teaching the whole class.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's a very touching story, and he plays it totally straight.
And he's still witty during those scenes, but he's not
He's not-
batshit insane.
Yeah,
I
he's
mean, the
not
minute the
Williams.
mic turns on and he's in the DJ booth, the man is batshit insane. And it's you can tell, obviously, that this is a time in the late 80s when Robin Williams was doing a lot of cocaine, and
There's
it
so
works
much coke.
really, really well for him.
Oh,
Anybody that tells you that drugs are bad has not seen Robin Williams in Good Morning Vietnam, because the man does amazing work on
Well,
cocaine, and without it, it would not be the same performance.
Bill Hicks always used to say, it's like, if you think all drugs are bad, then I want to take you to take all those Beatles and Rolling Stones albums and burn them, because the music those guys made, they were so fucking high when they did it.
Well, Robin Williams is fucking high as a kite in this movie, but it was perfect and it works. Forrest Whitaker does really great work.
yeah.
When does Forrest Whitaker not do really great work?
Yeah.
One of my
that's a good
favorite
question.
scenes is when he and Robin Williams are hopping on bicycles to run after the girl for the first time, and Forrest Whitaker is looking. He's like, "There's no rubber on these. There's no tire. Like, what's going on?" And Robin Williams is just like, picky, you know.
Yeah, they have a great relationship and chemistry with each other in this film. And like I said, Bruno Kirby is so great as the really nebbishy asshole character.
And he's like, I want to be
here.
saluted. I'm a lieutenant, and that's why I became a lieutenant, is to be saluted. And the whole time, they're just fucking making fun of him, and it is hilarious.
Well, I thoroughly enjoy this film. I got to rewatch it again with this. Super happy to see it again. I'm always super happy to see this film. It's one of those movies that for years with just cable TV, if it was on, that's what we were watching.
Yeah,
And it's-
definitely.
And what Luke was saying about having, like, this is a Robin Williams who has that kind of, like, completely spastic, coked up, like, wild comedy side,
Yeah.
and then also, like, the other side of him, the more serious side. One of my favorite scenes in the movie is when he's defending a Vietnamese boy who they're trying to kick out of, like, the GIs are trying to kick out of a bar, and he's, like, you know, trying to kind of quell the situation, and he's talking very rationally, and then all of a sudden he just fucking headbutts a guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Robin
it's
Williams just
awesome.
headbutted a guy.
Again, cocaine. Let me just say.
That's a hell of a drug.
That is a side effect. We're not saying that drugs are good for you. We're just saying you can get some good art out of it.
It will make you headbutt a guy twice your
Yeah,
size.
you will do stupid shit, but it's entertaining as hell for us to watch.
Hell yes.
If you do like Robin Williams and you do like seeing him just go off, there's an extra on here that's 13 minutes of just an uncut take where they they were just letting Williams go and just watching him. Just let him go. We'll edit it together. The sequence.
That would be great to watch up against. Apparently, there's like, I don't know if it's actually on anywhere on the Aladdin home releases, but apparently there's a scene like that where he's recording for the genie, and they're just letting him freeform. But they had to reel him in because he started to forget it was a Disney movie.
Right.
Like, Al, fuck, dude, come on, get your cock in there.
The mouse doesn't have genitals. I don't understand.
Oh, come on, Jasmine, open sesame.
It appears there's some back and forth. I thought this disc looked pretty good for a movie from the late '80s, and
Yeah, it looked
but I
fine.
will say that I am kind of disappointed. Disney's taking some of these old Touchstone titles, and I first noticed it on Rocketeer, and it's here again. They emblazoned it with this, anniversary edition, and blessed it with, all of 2 special features in the trailer. And I will give them credit, because that's 2 more special features than the Rocketeer Blu-ray had.
Yeah, right.
But it's just a shame. I feel like there's probably some material that got left on the floor from the DVD, and I'd love to see some commentaries or some other features make their way to the Blu-ray edition.
Oh, I can't even imagine how awesome a Robin Williams commentary would have been on Good Morning.
yeah.
And I don't know that one exists, but I'm postulating
they could fucking
that it's
record
possible.
one. That's what I'm saying.
They could. He's still alive and shit.
One of the
And he hasn't gone like Rick Moranis crazy in Kentucky yet, so
one of the notable-
fucking get him on the phone.
One of the notable things about this film is, of course, the soundtrack, because it's
Oh,
a movie
yeah.
about a radio DJ. So it's this great music that takes center stage a lot in the film, and yet the audio transfer is just okay. And it feels like a film you would have spent more time making sure that was, when a song starts playing, it's going to shake your living room a little bit and make you want to get up and dance.
That's a good point.
Not really the case here, but like I said, it's still the best copy of this film you can get. And either way, however you see it, you should go ahead and see this film. Now, that was Good Morning Vietnam. And moving on to the other Robin Williams film that's worth seeing that came out also from Touchstone, I believe, is Dead Poets Society. Now, Dead Poets Society is a very different kind of film.
What?
A directed 1989 drama by Peter Weir, who's another one of those great directors who occasionally turns in something you're like, what the fuck were you thinking?
Yeah.
Like Battleship.
A little erratic, I feel.
Or wait, is Battleship him? Or...
No, Battleship is Peter Berg, motherfuckers.
Sorry.
I'm kind of excited about Battleship just because it's Peter Berg, and the man, I think, does good work.
So far, his record is good, but this might be the game changer here.
The game
It
changer?
is a game changer!
Yeah.
Yes! You sunk my Battleship.
As long as somebody says that at some point, I'll be pleased.
I sincerely hope it's Liam
Neeson! You sunk my Battleship!
Have you noticed Liam Neeson's barely in the trailer? I'm guessing he's not in that film.
Seawolves! Shit! Seawolves!
Look, somebody kidnapped his daughter, and he had to leave.
Dude, if he comes at that giant alien ship with a bunch of broken liquor bottles strapped to his hand, this be the happiest guy ever.
You fuck with us, we'll fuck with you.
Look, if you don't watch a lot of Liam Neeson movies, what the fuck is wrong
Seriously,
with
what's
you?
your
You need
problem?
to watch more Liam Neeson films.
Did you hear Liam Neeson just filmed a movie in the Virgin Islands? They're now just called The Islands.
Shit, he's gonna be the new Chuck Norris.
As well he should be. 'Cause fuck Chuck Norris.
Oh,
you know?
shit.
Sorry, but come on.
Fuck Chuck
That
Norris.
guy's kind of an asshole. Whereas
No.
Liam Neeson is the guy. I'm sorry.
No, Chuck Norris is not an asshole. I'm sorry.
Did you hear he came out and supported Newt Gingrich for president?
Look, the man's conservative and crazy as all hell, but he's not an asshole just because he loves Jesus.
I didn't say it was just because of that.
Look, just because he loves Jesus and he made Expendables 2 PG-13 does not make him an asshole.
Keep
he
going.
is still Chuck Norris.
Keep
he will
going.
still roundhouse kick the
All
world.
those fantastic Chuck Norris films.
Luke
Missing in
loves
Action
cake.
2, Top Dog,
Really?
Sidekicks.
All right. So
Sidekicks is awesome.
Woo!
obviously a rarefied set of taste you have
In
there,
all
and
honesty,
I congratulate you.
Code of Silence with Chuck Norris and Henry Silva is
Oh,
a
yeah.
badass
Well, that's
film.
the one I like. That's the only one I like.
That's the only Chuck Norris film
It's the
you
only
like?
Chuck Norris film I like.
Holy shit.
Well, Chuck Norris is very
Sorry.
much like Robin Williams in Dead Poet Society in
oh,
no
right,
way.
yes, totally.
Nice
In-
way to bring us back,
So-
Brian Salisbury.
In
I'm
the
working
way
on it.
that
Man.
it's very poetic.
That
shit.
training he got in the Nazi thing is working out.
If there's
know,
one
right?
thing I know,
Fucking
it's
Sig Heil
organization,
and
okay?
That
Eins
being
zwei,
a
eins zwei, build an empire.
blue-eyed, blonde-haired bastard.
He's making this train run on time.
Oh, shit. Oh, it's never gonna go away. It's never gonna.
Technically, that's just fascist, not Nazi. But anyway, tell us about this movie, Brian.
Well,
Not
this
if
is
the
a
train's headed to a death camp.
So this movie is about an all-boys school, I believe in the 50s, where it is a Catholic school. So basically that means that, speaking of fascism, where basically you're told what to think and what to say and how to dress, and it's very much actually like a little Hitler Youth situation, except that it's a Catholic school. And so these boys are all friends, and they have an English class together, taught by this brand new teacher, Mr. Keating, who is played by Robin Williams, who turns out to be not a huge fan of traditional teaching methods, and does some things that are a little unorthodox, and basically just inspires the kids to explore their creative sides and do what they want to do. And I mean, it's one of those movies that we all see either in our formidable years or at the point where we need to feel inspired. It's one of those movies that no matter who you are, it feels inspiring at least for about 5 minutes, and then the more you see it, you might not think so.
Okay, so here's the thing about this film. I really liked it the first time I saw it when it came out. I mean, I have the vaguest memories of seeing it, but I remember going, wow, that was great. Like everybody did when it came out. I mean, it was extremely well. I think it even won some Oscars. I'm not entirely. Yeah, it won Best Original Screenplay, and Robin Williams was nominated for Best Actor, and Peter Weir was nominated for Best Director, and it was nominated for Best Picture, and it won a ton of awards past that.
Sure.
From other things like the BAFTAs and shit.
Those
Yeah, but
real.
the fucking BAFTAs.
It's like Canadian money.
There are no British people. They make Doctor Who expressly for my enjoyment.
It's what you do. A BAFTA is what you take after you fall into the mufta.
You've been dating Juno Temple.
I have. And it is awesome.
Fascist.
I bet it is.
The thing here is that the premise is that these kids all fall in love with poetry and reading poetry to each other in secret, despite the wishes of the university, in a cave. And I know that sounds weird. You just have to watch it to get the where we get there.
It sounds a little gay when you.
But the thing is,
you put it like
if
that.
if you take that out of it, if you put, because I'm sorry, poetry is one of those things that, like, as much as I've tried, and god damn it, I've fucking tried. I was an English major, for God's sakes. I have a really hard time getting into most of it. And I had a hard time putting myself in the shoes of these kids going, yeah, we're rebels reading Walt Whitman to each other at midnight in a cave.
Yeah.
Okay, that's like...
How do you say that sentence without and jerking each other off after it? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because you really have to be watching the film to understand just how oppressive this school really is, that these kids think reading Walt Whitman in a cave after midnight is rebelling against the society.
And you could put all sorts of things on top of that. Like, if you have trouble identifying with that, you could imagine they're going off and they're performing plays or something.
Or they're singing punk rock.
Yeah, they've got a band, they're going and progressing.
Or in my case, it would have been watching horror movies your parents didn't want you to.
I'll tell you, even and it is really good. It's well written, but there's a point where there's a death in the film, and I even remember when I originally saw it that I felt the death, at least the way it was handled, felt kind of disingenuous for me. I thought it was it was just kind of unnecessary. It's like they do it and then they don't really say anything about it.
It's
like,
way
I felt
overly
like
theatrical.
We should have gotten a message out of that to say, wow, that's fucked up that happened in that way, and we shouldn't in any way glamorize it. But they don't do that at all. If anything, they do the opposite.
Yeah.
And that bugged me a little.
Yeah.
As someone who's had people I know commit suicide, I was like, that kind of make someone look like that was a good thing to do on some level. I don't know. It bugged me. And but not enough to like condemn the film for it.
I think it's one of those movies that may not have, like, this is a movie, and I'm going to show my young age, but I mean, this is a movie that they showed us a lot in school, which is funny because it's about rebelling against a school.
Right.
But it was a movie that it got to the point where it became so accepted as part of the culture that, I mean, you would see it in schools, you would see it, like you said, on cable all the time, and it just became a movie that was kind of burned into my consciousness. And I think it's more remembered for its iconic scenes and what they represent than its actual plot and its actual characters. For example, I think the scene where they're all standing on their desks in show of support of Mr. Keating, the "Oh Captain, My Captain,"
very moving sequence.
Yeah, it's very moving, but I mean, it kind of, I mean, again, they're quoting poetry. So if you just said to somebody, "Oh, it's a scene where they all stand on their desks and quote poetry to a teacher," you're like, but I mean, in the context of the film,
it means a lot.
It's very powerful, and you don't get the impact of that scene if you don't watch the whole thing. But I do feel like it's a movie that's kind of, I've kind of become detached from it in a lot of ways. I don't think it really. it's really relevant anymore, but I still think a lot of its scenes carry a lot of emotional weight.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say this: I haven't seen it years. I was probably too young to see it theatrically, but I feel like I saw it like right when it came out on DVD, which would have been granted in the late 90s or early 2000s. But I don't know. I think you guys are heartless bastards. It's an awesome fucking film. So eat dick. No, I remember liking it a lot, and I mean at the time.
Luke's review is you guys should eat 4 dicks.
Which is actually
a bag.
A whole bag?
Yeah.
Well, actually,
which is 6, by the way. If anybody ever tells you a bag of dicks, it's 6.
I'm not
dicks.
even hungry.
Eat a Bag of 6 Dicks is actually from a Walt Whitman poem. I don't know if anyone remembers.
Yes,
that one.
Walt Whitman, as we all know, was a huge child molester and was born in ancient Hong Kong.
If you haven't, what's the name of that? There's this.
Just Google funny essay.
There was a
And
kid
there are,
in
like,
high
2
school
essays
that
that will
wrote
come
this
up.
completely bullshit essay about Walt Whitman because he was pissed off at his teacher and just made up all, like, he was 17 feet tall and was a convicted child molester and, like,
Knew the names of all the ancient gods.
he knew
It's
the names
fucking
of,
hilarious.
and that
to
people
read.
disobeyed him at their own peril in all caps. And just reading that essay every once in a while, I can't think of Walt Whitman without thinking of the shit from that essay.
So yes, please do check that shit out. But no, I liked this film a lot, and I mean, I guess it's gonna hit me differently, obviously, because I would have been in high school when I saw it, so I didn't, at the time I didn't know anyone who had committed suicide, and it didn't strike me the same way. But I don't know, maybe it would if I revisited the film.
No, but that's what I'm saying is when I first saw it, I was at that age too, and it did speak to me directly because at that age I thought I wanted to be an actor, and there's this whole storyline about one of the kids in the movie wants to be an actor and his dad won't let him, and it's this big drama, and I was like completely identified with this movie, but what I found in repeat viewings is now I don't do that anymore. It's not really something I'm passionate about anymore.
Thank God for that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't join the Brotherhood if you anyway.
Yeah, it's true.
So I'm just gonna embrace this shit. Whatever.
You mean I have to work with black people?
So I think that over time, like I was saying, it just becomes less relevant. Maybe that's just me, but it doesn't speak to me the same way. There are certain moments that still have the resonance, but overall as a film, it doesn't hit me the same way that it used to.
I think you're saying exactly the same for me.
Yeah.
Really, I guess I too studied to be an actor in my younger years.
Acting.
Oh my God, you're both gay. All right, so that was Dead Poets Society.
We are 2 thespians. It's
Yes.
true.
We have big thespian orgies.
Oh yeah, that was
with
dead.
your pianists.
With our pianists.
Adrian Brody comes over. It's great.
All right.
And then he kills the Jews.
No, that's not how that movie. God damn it, Luke. It's not how it ends.
All right, so moving on. Here's a movie I don't think that you guys got to see, but I did. Called, I don't know why I didn't link right to it, but it's a British comedy film called Bullseye.
Oh, what?
Now this came out on MGM's.
Directed by Michael Winner.
It's on MGM's version of the Winner Archive
that's why I didn't
label.
see it. Wait, so this is okay. I'm sorry to interrupt you. A movie with Michael Caine, Roger Moore, directed by the guy that did Death Wish.
Yeah.
Michael Winner.
And all right, so check this out.
How is this not a canon film?
More-
It says
Why
it
not
was
watching
produced
this?
by Golan as
Moore
well.
and Kane play 2 roles. They're small-time con men that don't really trust each other because Moore has apparently fucked over Michael Caine on a number of occasions. But they're brought together by a mutual friend played by Sally Kirkman to basically steal a shit ton of money from 2 nuclear physicists who've discovered cold fusion and have decided that they are going to rip off the government by selling it to the highest bidder. And doesn't that sound awesome?
Yes.
Like they're trading roles off like that. I mean, Roger Moore and Michael Caine playing roles together for one thing. It's too bad it's not funny at all.
Oh.
That like hurts me. Like that breaks my heart.
I don't care. We're watching it anyway.
It's one of
'cause
those movies-
Cyrus has been wrong before. And
And I will be wrong again.
you're damn right. Probably later in this podcast.
I do it just to be a dick to you. You know that, right?
I know, like this is the best movie ever. He loves it.
That's
He's
the
sitting
only
there
reason
going,
Brian kills the Jews. So,
for the love of God. It's not the only reason.
All right. So aside from his extreme racism, this film is it's total screwball comedy, and it's playing it almost to like an Airplane type of level. And that's where it went kind of wrong for me because it didn't need to do that.
Uh-huh.
Like, why are you having these 2 amazing actors like tripping over themselves and doing stuff that belongs more in a Friedberg and Seltzer film, you know? I mean, it's satire, but it's at its absolute lowest form. And, I mean, sure, that's an exaggeration. It's not as bad as those guys are. Nothing is.
Nothing is as bad as those guys
Yeah, I don't know.
are.
You said Airplane, you said slapstick, it's like, you're not saying anything that makes me not want to watch this movie. I'm just going to say.
I don't compare it to Airplane in a way that's good, though, because I don't think it's anywhere near as funny as that. There are moments here and there that did, in fact, make me laugh. And looking at the whole plot as it is, it's one of those movies I would love to see get remade today with someone else just script treatmenting the whole thing.
Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase.
Well, maybe not that.
When you said you thought today meant 1986?
Yes.
Okay.
You know that whole time portal thing, pocket universe we got
We just
stuck
ripped
in?
that shit right open and remake this movie in 1986.
Dude, as long as you pay Dan Aykroyd like $100,000 so you can go make his Alien documentaries, you can have Dan Aykroyd in pretty much any fucking movie you want.
Yeah.
Slight tangent. If you get the chance to go on Netflix and watch a movie called Dan Aykroyd Unplugged on UFOs, you'll understand why that guy doesn't make a lot of movies anymore. Because he is fucking insane.
Makes good vodka, though.
He does make good vodka.
Now, one thing I thought that was really funny in here is that there's a John Cleese cameo at the end where, but like I said, with the whole premise that people have identical doubles, there's a guy who isn't John Cleese, but it is John Cleese, that they're like, oh my God, we have this great idea where you can replace John Cleese because you look just like him and we'll set up this big con and steal all his money. I was like, okay.
That's funny.
That's funny, but you got to wait through the entire movie to get to that one joke. And like I said, I'll be curious to know what you guys think. Maybe you can let us know in the next remote viewing if I'm full of shit or not.
Yeah, I am pissed.
Did not work for me.
Pissed that I missed this one. It's my own fault, but
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Cyrus is full of shit. Whether it's in relation to this or not, Cyrus is full of shit.
Well, like Luke pointed out, one of the producers is Menahem Golan, who's one half of Canon Films, Golan and Globus.
Yeah.
And there's so many like different reasons that I want to watch this movie that I can't bring myself to believe that it's anything but awesome.
And I was wildly excited about it myself. Maybe that was part of the problem. So hopefully you guys going into it with a little more jaded expectations will not be as disappointed as I was, because I was indeed. Well, what do we got next? That was Bullseye with an exclamation point.
Bullseye with an exclamation point, which is always important in the title of a movie. So yeah, I think next I want to talk about a movie that's played South by Southwest last year, called Cold Sweats.
Indeed. And Cold Sweat was a film, if you guys follow any of my writing stuff on my site, it was literally the last thing I wrote a review for. It's been a little while. I'm getting lazy because of remote viewing.
Well, remote viewing, yeah. The more you remote view, the lazier you get.
That's true. But
we should have T-shirts made up that say that.
But why don't you talk about this extremely strange and very visually distinct horror film?
Yes, this is a... Wow, I have... Okay, first of all, the thing you need to understand about Cold Sweat is that it's a low-budget horror movie that has a very distinct political identity as well. Or
I would argue it tries to have a very distinct.
Well, it is founded on basically the story here is that a guy's girlfriend breaks up with him, and he comes to believe that it's because she was having this online relationship with this guy that she went to meet, and he's going to track her down and confront her, and he's figured out where this guy lives, and he goes to the house. Well, it turns out that the guy, quote unquote, online in these webcam shows is not a guy at all. He's a fucking corpse. And that these two former revolutionary soldiers are luring people to their house. They still think... I couldn't really tell if they still thought the revolution was going on, or if they were trying to spark a new one. Or...
Once again, not American Revolution.
No.
Argentinian.
None of those
revolution.
guys were alive to the time when there was cell phones and the internet.
Right. So. This is South America where there's a revolution every other year.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically they're luring people into the house, knocking them out, coating them from head to toe in nitroglycerin.
Nitroglycerin goo.
Yeah, it's like a paste.
Yeah.
And it's like if they move too much, or if they walk too fast, or if somebody strikes them with a hammer, they fucking explode.
With lots of goo.
So basically what this movie is a bunch of people, like, in the most tense situation you can possibly imagine, just trying to maneuver through this house and find a way out, knowing that if they move too slowly, they're going to be caught by one of these guys.
Yeah.
And if they move too quickly, they're gonna fucking explode.
Now, see, I didn't see this movie, but that sounds fucking awesome.
Now, doesn't it,
Because
though?
I didn't understand, but it was described to me as Wages of Fear with titties. And
Yes,
Okay.
that's exactly what it is.
And it sounds like a pretty accurate description, because I'm assuming, I mean, the cover shows that this young lady is, well, maybe not naked titties per se, but the young lady on the cover is definitely in her lingerie.
And she is
and
gorgeous.
nitroglycerin.
Make no mistake, there is a lot of titties in
Well,
this
you looked at
movie.
me weird. This sounds like exactly Wages of Fear
Well,
with
you're
titties.
giving Wages of Fear too much credit if to attach it to this film, because I would not attach that to this film.
Wait, I'm giving Wages of Fear too much
No,
credit?
not wait. I'm this film. I'm sorry.
Oh,
too much
okay.
credit
I was
for
about to say,
attaching
because Wages of
to
Fear
it.
is a fucking
No,
classic.
no, it
We will
is.
come to fisticuffs over Wages of Fear.
He's already upset about
I will
Bullseye.
fucking
and he
throw it
hasn't
down.
he hasn't even seen Bullseye, and he's already ready
And
to
it's,
punch
it's
me.
getting tense in here. I feel like somebody covered me with nitroglycerin. That's not nitroglycerin!
No, but your boobies are bigger than the girls in here. So.
This is true.
These girls are gorgeous, and they literally are. I mean, they're just covered in this clear goo. I mean, you're watching a bukkake film in some ways. But, but the thing is like this. Aside from that, it's got kind of a Saw vibe to a certain extent, except like much weirder,
Yeah.
and with much less effort to make it even mildly plausible. Like the whole thing is insane. And even the directors said, look, we weren't really going for a plausible story here. We were going for a visceral experience.
Yeah.
And on that level, he delivers. I thought that like he'd watched way too many Aphex Twin videos. There's a lot of influence from that guy.
I love it when Cyrus talks about his porn, because I have no idea what the fuck he's talking about.
I think the Aphex Twins are those two chicks that like share one boob. I don't really know
You don't
how
know
it
what
works,
Aphex Twin is?
Two girls on
No,
top.
that sound you heard was your reference going over my head.
Okay, it's Richard D. James. He's one of the godfathers of electronica, but he makes all like a video window licker. Have you ever seen that? With this huge limousine that just keeps going and going.
You're not
and
making
going.
it not sound like porn.
I will have to show it to you on the break. 'Cause you guys will go, wow, that is the most fucked up video I have ever seen. But yeah, I'm sure someone will put it in the links at the end. It's just, there was a lot of stuff that I saw he was trying to do that was different, but it was too reminiscent for me of other things, at least stuff that I was exposed to. And I got irritated with the story that was just kind of meandering all over the place. I mean, it acted as if it had something important to say about politics, but it really didn't.
No, I mean, I don't think it has something important to say. I do think that it's interesting that they put this weird kind of political spin on the classic "don't go in the house" trope.
Yeah.
Where it's like these guys, you know, whether you buy into it or not, like they buy into what they're doing, and I think that's what makes it scary. Is the more inaccurate they are about it, and the stronger they hold to their inaccuracy, the scarier it is. And I like that. What I love about this movie is they have found the ultimate way to get around the fact that all the action takes place in one small house. Because if you can't move very fast, and if at every waking moment you're afraid the character is going to explode, they can explore every fucking corner, every crevice of that house at like a snail's pace, and you're still on the edge of your seat the whole time, because when they show somebody explode, first of all, I love that it's mostly practical. I have
That's
to like
my favorite thing about it.
applaud them for that, because I mean,
I don't know if all those boobs were real, but
well, that may have been an effect.
but
as well.
they're practical nonetheless.
But when
Hi-yo!
there's one character that explodes, and they do it in slow motion. You can see every tiny little chunk of fake viscera that they made, and it looks so goddamn good. And I love that. I love that they didn't go digital for a lot of these effects.
like I said, there's a lot of good qualities about it. There's all the boobies, which once again are spectacular, and they are covered in a clear nitroglycerin goo, which makes them glisten in a very pleasant fashion. You'd be willing to explode. Hell, you would explode if you had your hands on them.
All right.
Just saying. Two, like you said, all the gore is indeed practical. I mean, there's a couple editing cuts that use, like, I think a little bit of CG to fix things, but on the whole, they're all practical.
Right.
And two, I like the soundtrack. Or three, I like the soundtrack a lot. I didn't recognize any of the bands. They're all assumably Argentinian heavy metal and
the
industrial.
opening song's pretty damn
But
cool. I remember.
I liked the music all the way through it. It kept surprising me with how interesting and cool the songs were. But like I said, on the other hand, I was never scared by it. I always went, okay, here's another thing that doesn't really make me sense. I don't care about any of these characters at all. There's neat visual stuff going on. There's nothing in the story that grabbed me.
Yeah, and I was on board with it the whole way, and I thought it was very tense, and I was like the whole time just recoiling because I kept waiting for somebody to explode. And maybe Wages of Fear with titties is not the. Maybe it's more like a strip club where instead of a pole, it's the sword of Damocles hanging over the stage. Maybe that's a better way to describe
I
it.
got a sword of Damocles for you right here, buddy.
Ah,
It's not gonna hang it over your head though.
So that was Cold Sweat, guest starring Cyrus's penis, and
As is all things.
which is actually a side effect of the gonorrhea, the cold sweat on his penis. So
It's not gonorrhea. It's chlamydia. Get it right.
I'm sorry. Okay, a little clap for you.
get a shot. Oh,
Little clap for you. STDs.
That
You
was
win that round, fascist. All right. Well, you know what? Let's take a break because we need to take a break because I gotta pee.
Take a break. Wait. I remember
It's
this
gonna
one.
hurt when I pee, but I gotta do it anyway.
Yes,
so.
be sure to rub that
I
special
feel like
cream on it.
we do something before.
Yeah,
we
every
take
time we go to
breaks.
break, I
Oh,
feel like we do something.
What is it that we do?
Is it cat pictures? No,
Each
we're
other?
on the
yes,
radio.
it's cat pictures.
Yeah.
Is it not cat pictures?
No, because we're on the radio and you can't see them.
I can dream, can I?
You can
I
dream.
can act them out.
Oh.
Oh, I want cheeseburger.
I got it.
What is it?
Giveaway.
Oh, giveaways. All right, so here's what we got for you. We got so much good stuff to give away this episode, but I'm going to start this off with 2 Woody Allen films that just came out on Blu-ray, and a lot of people would argue that these are his 2 greatest films. They're certainly in my top 5 of all time.
And we will be arguing about them a little later in the show.
And we will be, but one of them is Annie Hall, and the other one is Manhattan. Like I said, we'll talk more about them a little later in the show, but man, this is your chance to win these. And basically, we're going to do it as we did the last one. There'll be one mention where I will mention somewhere in a post on the site that is posted after this came out, and this is only posted by either the Spill Crew or me. I'll post somewhere in the comments of that Woody Allen. I will write that, and you, if you see it, should send message. Remember, you have to send me a message, not post it on my profile or my Facebook page. Send me a message that says for instance, if like you said you posted Woody Allen and Brian's and the news article about how George Lucas killed himself. Not that specifically, but whatever the news article is, and then give me the code word, which is
Neckties.
What?
I know what Luke was gonna say, but I can't spell that word very well, and I don't want to make people bend their brains. We were gonna go with neurotic, but that's a fucking difficult
I was
word.
gonna say
Neurotic's
neurotic
not that
Jew,
bad.
but you know.
Well, you know what? If people have to look up stuff on the internet, then good for them.
All right,
They learn something.
We'll go with neurotic then.
We'll go with neurotic. So send me that, and then let me know with that which one of the 2 you would prefer to have, and there'll be 2 winners on that one. Anyway, we'll be right back after a break with more reviews and more giveaways. Boy, we got a lot more stuff to give away, and a lot more stuff to review
Hell yeah.
for you guys to be wrong about.
Jesus Christ.